Good deal. How you doing? You can't get away from us. I'll tell you, we're excited. I know the guys are excited getting the season going. I think you get right now into the dog days of training camp for us, and we're right now in the middle of we have 5 practices in 3 days, and as guys fight through it, you can see that look in their eye that they get ready. This is about the point where they're getting ready to make that turn away from training camp practice, get more into game mode, and get ready to kick this season off, which I know our guys are very, very excited to do, especially with such a big first game that we have to start the year off on the road in Houston against a team that's, I think a lot of people I saw picked to win their conference. I know they're a top 15 team nationally, so it's a great challenge for us. It's a great honor to be asked to play in one of those games to start the season off. I think that's pretty special. I think it just shows where our program's come over the last couple of years, that we're getting the invite to play in these in a kickoff game against the top national team that people think so much of us to put us in that game. So excited about those things, and I know we're excited to get the season kicked off, get this season underway, and let our guys transition from the hard work of practice unto enjoying the rewards of game day. So, questions? You guys get me all the time, though, I guess, right? So.
Lots been made about the Jeff Collins' defense. What are your expectations heading into the season? What do you want to see from that unit?
Defensively for us, one thing I always look for, and I base it off, do we have 11 guys running to the football every single play? Do we? And in running to the football, they're doing it with great effort. They get there with mean intentions, and they're really excited as a unit about being at the football. And, they play with that passion. They play with energy. They play with excitement. I guess as Jeff would put it, they play with that swag, out there on the field. And that's what you look for in a defense. Schematically, there's no perfect defense. There's no one perfect scheme out there. It's that your guys believe in what we're doing. We're putting our players in a position to be successful. But those players go out, play hard, and execute it and at a very high level. And that's really what my expectations of our defense are.
In that vein, Dan, the turnover margin was a big deal for y'all last year.
Yeah.
I know that's a number that's hard to duplicate, but what gives you confidence that Jeff didn't approach that?
Well, I think, one of the things you do is when you play an attacking style defense, when you're going to come after people and you have guys running the ball, good things happen to you. When you look at turnovers, how turnovers are created, it's not always the first guy getting the ball that creates the turn. The first guy might knock the ball out, might tip the ball up. It's the second guy that gets the turnover a lot of times, and I think that's an important deal for us. Turnover ratio is one of the huge statistics that we look at for us, whether or not we win games, and it's been pretty statistically accurate, I think, during my career here, the turnover ratio. But that's a 3 phases ratio right there. That's offense, defense, and kicking game involved in that turnover ratio. And so I think defensively they have to do a great job of turning it over. Offensively, we always have to do a great job of protecting it. And kicking game, we have to give ourselves that advantage of creating a turnover in a kicking game, being sound so we don't have what would result to a turnover. Such as a blocked punt or silly penalties in kicking game that kind of can result as almost turnover effects for us on the field.
If Ladarius Perkins has another 1,000-yard season, he's going to go down as one of the top 2 or 3 rushers in the history of the program. Why is he been so good for you? And just kind of talk about his development a little bit.
Well, I think Perk's really bought into our program, and you look at these guys since I've been here, we've. Exception of we had a 1,000-yard rusher every season that I've been the head coach, and except for the 1 year Vic had 970-something and missed 2 or 3 games. But I think Perk's a guy, when you look, that really has bought into our program. Got to come in red-shirted when he first got here, even though he's a high-profile player, came in red-shirted behind some pretty good running backs with Anthony Dixon, who's, I think, school's all-time leading rusher. Got to learn how he did it. Got to come and watch Vic Ballard, another NFL player, and he was sharing reps with him. And then when it was his turn to step into the spotlight, I know there were a lot of questions about him. Is he big enough to be an every down back? Can he handle it? And he's just shown that he has, in his development and his growth throughout his career of going from a guy that redshirted into a role player, into a starter, into a guy that everybody counts on to be one of our star players for this season. That's the development of a player.
Did he kind of have to change your mind from the characterization? Because a lot of people thought he might just be, you know, the guy you put on the edge, the fast guy. I mean, did you have to change your mind about him that he can handle?
No, I mean, I got to see him in practice every day. You know what I mean? I got to see him as a scout team tailback as a true freshman. You know, so that was never a deal. There's the, you know, when perception and reality creep in, I think you look at a guy and say, okay, the perception's this of him, but the reality of a guy like Perkins, I mean, he weighs 190 pounds, I think, about there. So, I mean, he has size. You know, when you look at it, he's not a tall, skinny 190 pounds. He's a short, thick 190 pounds. And, you know, so I think he's had the size to do that. He works at pass protection, works at doing all the little things the right way. So we've never had, I've never really had doubt that he could kind of be that every down player for us.
Dan, when you have to replace NFL guys at a certain position, specifically this year, Banks and Slay at corner, do those names get brought up in practice or in preparation, or do you want your guys to be their own individuals and play their own way?
Yeah, they have to be their own individual. You know what I mean? They get brought up into this. A standard has been set for us. You know, that the standard of play at this position is for you to go be an NFL player. You know, the standard of play on the defensive line is, you know, is Pernell McPhee, is Fletcher Cox. You know, that's the standard of play at corner is John Banks and Darius Slay. The standard of play at running back is Vic Ballard and Anthony Dixon. So I think that the standard gets brought up, but you don't say, because guys have to be their own players. As one, we can't replace Banks or Slay, you know, because the guys we have are different body types, different skill sets, different experience levels. You know, so we can't say, okay, you get to be the next guy at that position. You have to become the best that you can be, but this is where the standard of play and what our expectations for you are at that position group. And so, you know, that's where it gets brought up more than, hey, we need you to step into those shoes and replace that player. We need you to be the best player you can be, and this is the standard we have at that position.
On the outside, whether it's fans or anybody on the periphery, kind of confuse that by saying, hey, Jamerson Love, you have to be the next John Banks?
Well, I think fans on the outside, they always say that, you know. I mean, you know, that's always part of it, you know. And, I mean, just at every position, you know, okay, who's going to be the next whoever? And, you know, inside, you don't have that. You know, that guy was special because he had his own set of tools. The next guy that comes along is going to have a little different set of tools. It's not going to make him any less special. I know Anthony Dixon, you go back to running backs, but who's going to be the next Anthony Dixon? Well, Vic Ballard came in and was pretty good in his own right, even though he was a different player. And he laughed, and, well, who's going to be the next? And Perkins comes in. He's a different player, but also very successful. I think the standard set of what we expect out of the position, and then each player becomes the best that they can be to accomplish that.
What percentage do you expect Tyler to be? Ron, can we get your microphone just so the people at home can hear? We'll start with a question right here, and then we'll get the microphone over there.
Will you talk about Kendrick Margaret, how much he's improved and how big of a role he's going to play?
Yeah, Kendrick's a guy, you know, and coming out of high school, kind of did everything for his high school team. You know, played a bunch of different positions, you know, and has kind of settled into safety for us. But again, as a player development goes, he was a guy that was involved in special teams last year. You know, this year we expect him to be kind of a special team star and a role player on defense for us. And then, you know, then he's going to step into a starting position on defense. And again, that's that player development of him. It's a guy that believes in the program, does everything the right way on and off the field, and you see this tremendous growth of this young man developing in every aspect of his life. And I think football carries over to life. Kendrick's a guy, you see him succeed off the field, you see him succeed on the field, in that he understands that hard work is going to make him successful, and that's what we've been able to see.
What percentage did you feel like Tyler's going to be under center this year, and what led you to the decision to put him more under center? Because were you looking at film of other defenses and they're saying, you know, they're kind of knowing what we're doing here, we need some more play action, we need something like that?
Well, you know, I think a lot of things, there's a lot of different reasons that go into it. One, you know, when, again, you look at playbook and what you're going to use each year, you use about 70% of your playbook and how it adapts to each player that you have. And some of the things we do are, you know, they're better from under center than from the shotgun. So, you know, if we're going to incorporate this part of our offense into it with a Tyler Russell, We want to get under center with him because the play's a little bit better from under center, maybe from the gun. And the overall percentage in the season we don't have. There's never a number to me. I want to be this much under center, this much in the gun. It's where we execute things. A lot of the things we run a lot of the same plays from under center that we do in the shotgun. One of the things we go back and evaluate, are we executing it better under center, or are we executing it better in the shotgun, and why? And making sure it's not, three times a guy went the wrong way. That's not a good evaluation. When you look at the play executed well, how's the timing of it? How is whether it's the run or the play action, the fakes off of it, the complements off of it? Are we getting better results from under center of the gun? And then we kind of go from there.
Can you talk about adding Sleepy Robinson to the coaching staff?
Yeah, it's it was I think you look around the league, and I think we may have the smallest staff in the league overall as far as personnel wise, but it was an opportunity for us in recruiting that we wanted to add a recruiting position. A guy that the great thing to me when you look at high school coaches coming into that position, guys that can have a keen eye. As they look, and he's been around high school football a long time, so you can look at a player of where he is now and where he's going to be down the road 4 or 5 years from now, which is the key, for us is, when you go evaluate a prospect and you see these are things that look, for us, these are things that we feel are really good traits to have in a young man, and these are things that in a kid from Mississippi that 4 years down the road, here John Banks over at East Webster High School, we can see the finished product 4 years down the road. It might not be he might not be the diamond right now, but you can see that he's going to become one in the future. So and obviously, to have that in a guy that knows the state of Mississippi really well, that's been around, has a lot of ties, obviously really, really cares about this university and understands this university and traditions and the pride here at the school. Helps a lot, when you look at coaches, that we kind of, we come in and, I've been invested here for 4.5, almost going on 5 years now, completely invested in this university where, when you look for us in other guys that we have in our building with Rocky Felker and Sleepy, these are guys that have been invested in this university now for 20 and 30 years. And that, just making sure that we have that and those people that know and care so deeply about the university over the long haul, it's just great having them on board.
Coach, going back to the secondary, can you talk about what do you expect out of Nico Whitley and Cedric Giles this year?
Nico, first off, he's a fifth-year senior this year. This is it for him. And, you expect big things. He's a guy, to me, that's been a very solid player throughout his career. But, now in his final year, you expect a guy to may take even that next step from just being a good starter into being a star or all-conference type of player. For him and the complete game for him. I know he's a big hitter. He's, he sets a tone in the secondary back there, but just the complete game in coverage and playmaking, all of those things is huge. And Cedric's a guy able to redshirt last year and comes back this year, and is now the opportunity. We got to stay healthy, that growth, that development, get on the field and become a player that we expect him to be. He's, when you look at the young guys, he's going to have an opportunity just with the guys leaving to get some roles in the secondary. But I think a lot of that's going to come to start on special teams, find out, understand the speed of the game, and develop into being the player we think he can become.
We talk about the addition of Deshae Townsend and how important he's been to this program, especially coming from an area close to the school up north.
I think, just being from Mississippi, he's a guy that's from the state of Mississippi, that grew up here, went on to have tremendous success at the next level. And, most of these kids, that's their dream. Their dream, they'd love to go win the Super Bowl. They want to go have long NFL careers. And here's a guy that has done that. Came out of Mississippi, went, from, going to South Panola High School, goes on, gets a college degree playing in the SEC, has the opportunity to move on to the NFL, has a stellar NFL career, wants to get into coaching because he loves the game of football. He's passionate about it. You see that on the field and in his coaching style. And when he talks, how great he is at relating to these young kids, because, these are kids that are looking, make Deshae feel bad and saying, hey, 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, I was in his shoes, right? Maybe Deshae, maybe 15, right? Someone, depending if they're 20 if they're a senior, 15 if they're a freshman, all right? And or 20 if they're a freshman, 15 if they're a senior. But they can look and say, hey, he was able to do it. He's explaining how he was able to do it to him, and he can listen beyond just his coaching on the field and his ability as a coach, his ability as far as explaining to them life skills and how, if you can, follow your dreams. And I mean, he's the first, I'm embarrassed. He doesn't run a 4.3, and he's not 6'2", and, all of that stuff. He worked hard, did things the right way, took care of his business, was able to have a successful career, and that's a great message to pass on to young men in the state of Mississippi.
Dan, how do you feel about your offensive line depth? You've had injuries, certain starters up front in the past, and it just kind of has set you back. Do you feel better about being 6 or 7, possibly even 8 deep at O-line, or is that still an issue?
Well, no, you're always nervous because, you want to have the ability to have 8. I think that, you want 3 tackles, 3 guards, 2 centers, and if you have that, you feel comfortable. But you want to have 8 every single week, So as long as you stay healthy, I feel great about the depth, because you got the 8 guys ready to go. It's when injuries start to strike that who's the 9th? Who's going from 9th to 8th? Who's going, if we have 2 injuries, who's going from 10th to 8th? That is always the tricky deal for you, and that's a big deal. I feel pretty comfortable with 8. Right now, maybe even 9, which is a good thing to have. And then you got the one in the bullpen, possibly. Hey, come get an inning or 2 out of him right there, Tobias. We can go, right? We can go down there, right there, bring him in and get an inning. We have to. I make sure we check his weight every once in a while. He's trying to slim up. We just make sure you keep your weight on in case we need an inning out of you. But I think when you have that. For us, that's where you want to be comfortable. Obviously, you'd love to be 10, 12 deep, but as long as you're always feeling comfortable about the 8 guys ready to go play in a game, you're going to be okay.
Dan, we've talked before about Tyler just taking charge a little more this year of the offense than he did even last year. I'm kind of curious what triggered that, because, last year he knew going in it was his offense to run. What was the difference?
Well, I think it's different because last year, going into it, he was going into the season as the starter. For the first time, I know he started games before, but he was the guy starting going into the season. Well, there's a lot that comes with just that responsibility. That's old for him now. You know what I mean? So being the starter, not a big deal. Getting ready for the first game, not a big deal. He's played the first game of the season before. He's had some great games. He's had some bad games. All of that stuff. So I think when you're dealing with him now, it is that, that you're trying to get to that graduate level of being a quarterback, of, running the show every snap of the game. You know what I mean? Of what your demeanor at the line of scrimmage is telling the defense on every play. And, can you give a certain, can just your actions and just your demeanor at the line of scrimmage, can you tip or disguise with doing that? Compared to just being, hey, I'm the starting quarterback, I know what to do, I'm out here, I'm executing, I know the offense, I'm running the whole show, and he's the one keeping the tempo of the offense going. He's the one, when it's going, accelerate things. If it's struggling, let's slow down, make sure you're coaching this guy and keep our pace where we want it to be, that type of deal.
Coach Collins talked about the depth at linebacker, having being comfortable going 7, 8, maybe 9 deep in that rotation. Can you talk about that depth position?
You know what? It's something that we've wanted to grow. And you look at some of the guys. When you feel too deep, kind of at least across the board. That's very, very comforting. Having some depth at linebacker to me certainly helps in special teams for us, where I look at it with those guys. That's where there's a lot of competition. Everybody is looking for reps. There's only so many reps to have in the course of a game. And, when you add special teams reps in there, if you look as a defensive player, if you're getting 30 to 40 reps a game, that's probably a lot for a defensive player. And then there's, if you can get another 10, I'm getting my 25 reps on defense. Am I getting 10 on my special teams? I better make sure I'm competing to get those 10. And that depth adds to the competition that's out there, and competition obviously leads to increased performance or better performance. So that's what's been huge at that position. I think there's a lot of competition at that position to get snaps.
Dan, would you consider total package, character, ability? Is Caleb Hughes pretty close to all that?
Yeah, Caleb's a guy that works hard. One of the things, and you look at him, he's a guy that has, really cares, works hard at his fundamentals, works hard at being a better football player all the time. Looks and he knows his weaknesses, and he works at his weaknesses, constantly trying to get better. Does what he's supposed to do, where he's supposed to do in the classroom. As a character, as a young man, just, and his background story, which, like anything in the news media, that's so old now that a lot of people didn't. We actually had him speak to the team and showed the video of him saving everybody on that bus's life, possibly. And he, because a lot of kids never knew that even happened. And, but you just see a character of a young man and the type of person he is, and he knows. I'm just always proud of everything he does, and it's gonna show in his life. He's gonna be a success in his life. During his football career and after his football career, he'll continue to be successful.
You bring in a lot of local guys on this year's team, the recruiting class between Gabe, Jake, Justin Ashton. What sort of impact, and Chris Jones, what sort of impact are they going to have on this year's team?
We're still waiting and seeing. Right now, they're surviving. Every one of them, the freshmen kind of look and they say, Coach, when you told me it was going to be, playing for you is going to be one of the hardest things I do in my life, because we set a pretty high standard here. They said, I kind of listened, but I don't know that I totally believe that. Now I 100% believe in what you say of how hard this is. But that's the transition from high school to college game, and what goes on and for them, and the investment, and so I think the exhaustion kind of sets in for all those guys right now. So they're trying to survive. When we get out of training camp, we got a big scrimmage on Thursday night. After that, it really gets more into game modes. And, from that point on, they're going to have a chance to kind of recover and make their statements to whether or not they're prepared and they're ready to go play game one. And if not, one thing we're going to do is if guys are ready and they can help our team, we're going to put them out there and be successful. If they're not ready, we're not going to put them on the field until we feel that they are ready to make a significant impact, especially as freshmen. We don't I love playing true freshmen, but I also know that for them, we have to be careful that they gain the confidence they need to build their careers the way they need to.
Any other questions? We got time for one more.
Playlist questions. I did see you wrote the playlist, but you did have a couple errors in there.
Did I really?
Yeah. Back where I come from is not, Kenny covers it.
Well,
but any good Mississippian knows that that's a Mac McAnally song, and we play the Mac McAnally version.
Joe told me it was, no, it was Joe. John.
Oh!
I asked, yes.
Throwing him under the bus.
Because I asked Joe
I'm a Kenny fan and all, but Mac's my boy.
Because I have no idea about country whatsoever, so I had no idea, and they said that was a cover by that specific song, and then the other ones were Mac McAnally.
No, that's a Mac McAnally song. We play the Mac version here. I was thinking Tennessee, they maybe play the Kenny version, but here in Mississippi, we play the Mac version.
How do you, trying to get prepared and keeping freshmen heads on straight and everything, how do you keep them not distracted for example, some stories that came out yesterday in CBS News and stuff, the sports and Chris Jones. How do you keep them prepared and not distracted and stuff like that?
I mean, I think they're, like I said, they're holding on right now. You know what I mean? I don't know that they can. Right now, they're up this morning at 5 a.m., 5:30 this morning. They come, they have practice, they have meetings, they go to walkthrough. They're trying to figure out technique, drills. They're doing it out there in 100-degree heat, and then they're being rushed inside to eat, hydrate, get in a cold tank, get treatment, get to meetings. And why aren't you in the gap you're supposed to be in? I'll be honest with you, I don't think they have much time to think about anything else at this point. So, you know, I mean, the distraction is just trying to survive for them. But I think overall, generally speaking, with distractions, one of the things that come with all freshmen for us is that sense, and this is where it hits when they get out there on the field. You know, I mean, all these guys signed with a Southeastern College, you know, was signed in the SEC in February, all right? And on that day, I mean, they are like they're celebrities. You know, they are the front cover of every news story out there. And now they're just trying to breathe at practice. You know, I mean, they're just trying to you know, figure out you know, I mean, whether the ball's blown or is it stuffed out there. They don't even know that. And so I think that distraction does become huge. That transition from the recruiting transition that I am the superstar of everything to I'm fighting for playing time. Hey, I may even redshirt this season. And if I do redshirt this season, you know, how does that affect my career? Which, you know, when you look at guys, it doesn't. You know what? I mean, it's a great opportunity for you to learn, develop, and become an even better football player. So I think those are the big distractions that really hit the freshman. That reality of I was a superstar to I'm competing against 22-year-old men that were superstars 5 years ago too, that are now a lot older, bigger, stronger, and faster. That adjustment is one that we're always very conscious with those freshmen because it is a transition for them. You know, they call home and you know, mom and dad and uncle and grandma are calling saying, well, you know, out here at our little high school, you are the superstar. You are like the greatest player we've had in 15 years here. We have a lot of those guys on our team. And, you know, it's that adjustment within their mindset that I think is always hard for freshmen.
Any other questions? Thank you, Coach.
Good deal.